"Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel." She walked in humming. That stupid, cheerful hum that used to mean everything was fine. Like she was coming home from yoga or brunch, not 3 days off the grid in what she claimed was a corporate innovation summit. She kicked off her shoes, set her overnight bag down, and called out, "Babe, I'm back." No answer. She walked into the kitchen. The fridge was humming. The dishwasher light was blinking. But the house? It was too quiet. No clinking of mugs. No familiar tapping from the upstairs office. No smell of my burnt coffee she always teased me about. She opened the fridge. Still stocked. Opened the pantry. Fully arranged. Everything was there, except for me. And then she turned to the table. There was only one thing sitting on it. An envelope. Her name on the front. My handwriting. That's when the smile finally dropped from her face. She opened it slowly, like it might bite her. Inside were 4 photos. She didn't need to flip through them. Just one glance and her knees gave a little. The wine glass she was holding shook slightly. She sat down without meaning to, like her body stopped trusting her brain. The top photo? Her on a porch in Vermont. Not Raleigh. Not a conference. She was barefoot, laughing, wearing the oversized hoodie I never saw before. A man's arm was wrapped around her waist. Not a handshake. Not a professional hug. This was intimate. Casual. Familiar. She whispered something to herself. I couldn't hear it. Not because I was far away, but because I was already gone. You see, while she was off pretending to network, I'd spent the last 72 hours unraveling every lie she'd ever told me. And I hadn't done it out of rage. No yelling. No revenge plan. Just clarity. I left quietly. Packed my things. Disconnected the utilities in my name. Forwarded my mail. Closed the joint account. All that remained was the envelope. Oh, and the cat. I took the cat. She called me 17 times that day. The first few rang out. Then she switched to voicemails. The first sounded confused, soft, panicked laughter wrapped in disbelief. By the 4th one, her voice cracked. By the 8th, she was yelling. By the 11th, she was whispering like I was already a ghost in her life. I didn't pick up. While she was pacing around the house, opening closets and drawers, trying to make sense of why the books were gone, the clothes vanished, the safe empty. I was already halfway across the state line. I'd left behind the bed frame, but took the mattress. Left her shoes, but not the laces. It was petty, I know, but it was my form of punctuation. Proof that I had been there. Proof that I had left. It's strange how someone can live with you for over a decade and still not know how much you notice. She never knew I listened when she made phone calls in the car with Bluetooth still connected. Or how I'd started checking our shared credit card statements each time she came back from these work trips and couldn't explain a $300 dinner at a place that doesn't even have a takeout menu. I let it pile up. I let her lies stack like dust. I let her treat me like wallpaper, quiet, consistent, unchanging. And all it took was one last trip and a tagged photo I wasn't supposed to see to shatter the illusion. But it wasn't the photo that hurt. It was the ease of her lie. The way she came home smiling, carrying croissants like she had actually thought of me. She even brought me a mug with "World's Most Patient Husband" written on it. No irony. No shame. Just pure, undisturbed deception. That's why I left everything intact, except the bed and the wedding photos. She walked into the bedroom that morning and saw the frames, perfectly aligned, but empty. Not smashed. Not burned. Just gone. I imagine she stood there staring at the blank spaces, realizing the memories she curated so carefully were no longer hers to display. I imagine her fingers trembling over the dresser, where my cologne used to sit, and noticing the imprint of the bottle still etched into the wood from years of routine. You don't need to scream to make someone feel your absence. You just need to remove everything they took for granted. And when she finally texted me, "Where are you?" I simply replied, "Not where I used to be." 2 days after I left, I made the mistake of opening my email. I had 43 unread messages. 37 were from Camille. The subjects read like a progression of grief. "Let's talk. Please. This isn't funny. I didn't cheat. You're being cruel. Why would you do this to me?" The last one said, "I'm at your mother's." That's when I realized she wasn't going to let this end quietly. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. It was my neighbor Harold, the kind of guy who always knew everyone's business and treated gossip like community service. His message was brief. She was here, crying, asking if you were with me. Left when I said I didn't know. She looked messed up. I stared at the message. not knowing whether to feel satisfaction or dread. I hadn't told anyone where I was. I'd rented a long-term cabin through an app under a burner account, paid in cash, and even changed the emergency contact on all my accounts. It wasn't paranoia, it was necessity. I knew Camille. She was manipulative when cornered, syrupy sweet when desperate, and if none of that worked, she weaponized shame. The thing is, she never really apologized. Not in her voicemails, not in her emails, not once. She said she was hurt by my reaction, confused by the accusation, and disappointed in how I handled things. Never once did she deny the man in the photo. Never explained the reservation. She was trying to win by outmaneuvering me emotionally, not by telling the truth. So imagine my surprise when, 3 days after vanishing, I opened the cabin door to grab the morning paper. Yes, I started reading a real paper, don't ask why, and found her car parked at the edge of the dirt road. Not on the driveway, not near the porch, at the tree line, like she thought I wouldn't notice. I froze. For a second, I wondered if I had imagined it. But then the door opened, and Camille stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a raincoat, like she was in some melodramatic indie movie. She didn't walk up right away. She just stood there, staring at the house. And I knew someone had cracked. Maybe her mom. Maybe Harold. Maybe she tracked me some other way. I didn't care. What mattered was that she was here, and I wasn't ready. I didn't open the door when she knocked. Didn't respond when she called my name over and over, voice shaky and breaking. She sat on the porch for 2 hours. I watched from behind the curtains, heart racing, hands sweating. Not out of fear. Out of disbelief that I ever shared a bed with someone so convinced she could outmaneuver consequences. Before she left, she slipped a letter under the door. I didn't read it. I burned it in the fire pit before sunset. I thought burning the letter would feel final, like some symbolic purge of the years I spent trusting her. But the truth is, it left me hollow. It didn't erase her knock on the door. It didn't silence her voice echoing across the porch, begging me to open up. It just confirmed something I already knew but hadn't said out loud. Camille wasn't going to disappear. She was going to fight, not for me, but for control over the story. 2 days passed without contact, and for a brief moment, I let myself believe it was over. I even started breathing differently. I woke up early, made eggs, sat on the front steps watching squirrels dismantle the bird feeder. It was the first time in years I felt still. But stillness doesn't last long when you've been married to someone like her. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was outside chopping firewood, shirt soaked with sweat, headphones in, when I felt a vibration in my pocket. A call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, until I saw the name that followed. Leona Miller. That name hit like ice water down my spine. Leona was Camille's boss. Technically, her mentor. The woman who gave her promotions, invitations to off-site retreats, and glowing evaluations. She was sharp, well-respected, and, I had assumed, entirely out of my orbit. Hi, Daryl. Her voice was clipped, precise, professional. I know this is unconventional, but I wanted to reach out. Camille's deeply concerned about your well-being. She says you left home suddenly and aren't responding to anyone. I just wanted to make sure you're safe. It was such a carefully rehearsed line, I almost laughed. My wife had turned her boss into a PR representative. I could practically hear the script Camille had handed her. He's not well, Leona. He's spiraling. Maybe if you talk to him. It was classic damage control. Paint me unstable, frame herself as the caring partner, and muddy the truth in case it ever reached anyone who mattered. I cleared my throat. Leona, I appreciate the concern, but Camille and I are going through something deeply personal. I'm safe, and I'd prefer not to be contacted about it by her coworkers. There was a pause. I understand. I didn't mean to intrude. It's just, Camille's worried. She said she thought you might hurt yourself. There it was. The bomb. She'd gone all in, betting that if she couldn't reach me emotionally, she could paint me as unhinged. I was done. No, Leona, I said calmly. I'm not the one people should be worried about. Then I hung up. I stood there for a moment, heart pounding. And then I laughed. For the first time in days, real, bitter, cathartic laughter. She was unraveling. The woman who always had an answer, always had a plan, was grasping at straws. And dragging her boss into our private fallout? That wasn't just desperate, it was reckless. Later that night, I opened an old notebook and began writing everything. Not just what she'd done recently, But all the cracks I had ignored for years. The emotional manipulation. The sudden, unexplained girl trips. The coworkers she never introduced me to. I wasn't writing for closure. I was documenting. Because something told me this was about to go from personal to legal. And for once, I wasn't going to be caught unprepared. It wasn't enough that she tracked me down. It wasn't enough that she sent her boss to call me, planting seeds of doubt and concern in the mouths of people I never even spoke to. No, Camille had one more card to play, one that forced me out of hiding and back into her world. And I should have seen it coming. That Sunday morning, I got a call from my sister. She lives in Virginia, doesn't get involved in anything unless it's an emergency or her birthday. I answered on the second ring. Her voice was sharp and panicked. "Daryl, what's going on? Why did I just get a call from Camille saying you went missing and she's filing a welfare check?" My stomach dropped. She did what? She told me she was filing a report with the police. That you're unstable, maybe even suicidal. She sounded like she was in tears. Said you left without explanation. I didn't know what to say. "Are you okay?" I had to sit down. My sister was one of the few people who knew the truth, or at least parts of it. But even she sounded unsure now. That was the genius of Camille's strategy. If she couldn't reach me directly, she'd go public, start making noise, twisting reality until people couldn't tell what was true anymore. I explained everything. From the fake business trip to the photos, the voicemail barrage, and Leona's phone call. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then, "Daryl, you need to see someone. Not because you're broken, but because you need protection. Emotional, legal, all of it. She's trying to control the narrative." And she was right. Because not even 2 hours later, I got a visit. A patrol car pulled into the gravel road near the cabin. A soft knock followed. I opened the door slowly. The officer was polite, a young guy with tired eyes. "Sir, we received a wellness request. Just want to check you're okay." I nodded. "I'm fine. This is a personal situation that's getting unnecessarily loud." He gave me a long look, then nodded back. "Would you be willing to verify identity and sign this acknowledgement? We just need it for the file." I did. Calmly. No resistance. I even offered him coffee, which he politely declined. After he left, I stood at the edge of the porch, watching the dust trail behind the squad car disappear into the trees. And I realized something sickening. Camille had turned this into a performance. A carefully choreographed sequence where she looked like the worried wife, and I looked like the one who snapped. I went back inside, opened my laptop, and sent a message to a lawyer I hadn't spoken to since we bought our house 7 years ago. Subject line: need to discuss separation and asset protection. Urgent. Because if she wanted to turn this into a war, I was finally done fighting with my heart. From now on, I'd fight with facts. It happened 3 days later, and I wish I could say I was surprised. I wasn't. When someone like Camille doesn't get what she wants, she doesn't stop. She doubles down, sharpens the manipulation until it cuts through every boundary. I had just gotten off a tense Zoom call with the lawyer, going over the steps to freeze our joint accounts and start the legal separation. The sun was going down. I had a mug of tea in my hands. That's when I heard the knock. But it wasn't like before. It wasn't slow and sad, like the one she left on the cabin door last week. This was deliberate, rhythmic, confident. And when I opened it, against every instinct in my body, she was standing there. Camille looked like she hadn't slept. Her hair was tied back messily, her coat barely buttoned. In one hand, she held her phone. In the other, a photo album. That stopped me cold. "I just want to talk," she said quickly. "Please. 5 minutes." I didn't speak. I just stepped aside, knowing that whatever storm she brought, I needed to face it head on. She walked in like she still lived there, sat down on the couch like it hadn't been weeks since I left her behind. Then she opened the album. The first photo was of our wedding. Us on the pier, smiling. God, I looked so young, like I still believed people meant the things they promised. She flipped the page. Our first home. That awful little condo with the peeling walls and the cat that hated both of us. Another flip. Vacations. Dinner parties. Her birthday surprise I once threw with handmade candles and a cake that collapsed in the oven. "You really don't remember any of this?" she whispered, like I was the one who had forgotten. "You're just going to throw it away because I made one mistake?" One mistake. She said it like she'd knocked over a glass, not lied, not traveled across state lines to spend time with a man I still knew nothing about. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat locked. She kept flipping, page after page. Then, halfway through the album, she pulled out something tucked between the photos, a folded piece of paper. She handed it to me like it was sacred. I opened it. It was a printed receipt. A single night's charge from the hotel where she'd stayed with him. But it was made out to a different name. Her name wasn't on it. Not even a guest note. He made the reservation, she said, voice shaking. He said it was a business thing. I didn't plan it. I didn't expect. She stopped. I ended it. The second I got your note. I swear. He meant nothing. It was pathetic. Not just the excuse, but the desperation behind it. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to rewrite the ending. Frame herself as the confused one, the naive partner swept into something she didn't understand. I handed the receipt back. You didn't end it. I did. The moment I saw you smiling after betraying everything we built. Her hands trembled. So that's it. After everything, I'm just the villain? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said, you made your choice. Now you're just living in the part you didn't plan. She left without another word. But not before looking around the cabin, like she was trying to memorize it. As if this would become the story she'd tell people years from now. How she lost the husband who didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't shatter things. Just vanished. And stayed gone. I thought after that night, she'd finally back off. She had said her piece, played the photo album card, even tried the he meant nothing excuse. I expected silence. But Camille doesn't retreat. She recalibrates. When emotional manipulation doesn't work, she reaches for public sympathy. And this time, she didn't aim for me. She went for the people around me. The first call came from my uncle, who lives 2 towns over. He's old school, raised on the idea that marriage is sacred no matter what. Daryl, he said, I know you're hurt, but Camille called me. Said you're throwing away a good woman over something that didn't even happen. She says it's all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? A full-blown romantic getaway booked under another man's name. Fake conferences, deleted messages, and location sharing turned off? That's not a misunderstanding. That's architecture. Design betrayal. But it didn't stop with family. My manager, of all people, called me the next day. Apparently Camille had reached out, worried about my state of mind. Told him I might be dealing with something mental, and said she wasn't sure if I was in a safe place. I was furious. Not because she reached him, but because he almost believed her. He was hesitant, apologetic even, like he was walking a line between concern and HR protocol. She was creating a version of me that sounded unstable, erratic, unhinged. And it was working. That's when I realized she had started playing a much longer game. This wasn't about saving our marriage anymore. This was about reputation. Hers. Mine. The illusion of the life we had. She couldn't let it all collapse without someone to blame. But the turning point didn't come from me. It came from someone I never expected, her coworker, Shannon. I got an anonymous email late that evening. No subject line. No signature. Just a message. You don't know me well, but I thought you should see this. She's been lying to a lot of people. Not just you. Attached were screenshots. Internal messages from Camille to a man named Brent T. Conversations from weeks before the business trip. Explicit. Detailed. One of them ended with, "You make me feel alive again. I wish I could leave him." Another showed a hotel confirmation Camille had forwarded to her personal email from Brent's address. The same hotel from the photo I'd seen. Except this time, she was the one replying with, "Can't wait to be wrapped up in you again." Counting the hours. So much for he meant nothing. I sat there, staring at the screen, sick to my stomach. Not because I didn't already know, but because this finally destroyed every last crack of doubt she'd tried to inject into me. There was no misunderstanding, no confusion, no naive mistake. She'd been gone long before she ever packed that suitcase. I replied to the anonymous email with just 2 words, "Thank you." Then I attached the screenshots to a legal folder I had created, labeled it Evidence, and sent it to my attorney. Because now, it wasn't just about leaving her. It was about making sure she couldn't rewrite a single line of what actually happened. The truth has a strange way of surfacing, quietly at first, like a ripple in still water, then all at once, like a tidal wave crashing into everything you thought was secure. Camille didn't expect it to spread. She didn't think people would question her version of events. But the screenshots did their job. Shannon, the anonymous coworker, turned out to be more than just a silent bystander. She shared Camille's messages with HR at their company. Apparently, Brent, her secret conference companion, wasn't just a fling. He was a married executive. The fallout? Swift. Camille was suspended pending an internal ethics investigation. Brent resigned quietly 2 days later. They tried to keep it under wraps, but corporate secrets rarely stay secret for long. Meanwhile, I sat with my lawyer, walking through the separation paperwork. Clean break. No contest. The house would be sold. Accounts divided. The prenup, ironically pushed by Camille years ago, ensured she wouldn't get her hands on my retirement. I felt relief. Not rage, not revenge. Just a deep, settling peace I hadn't known in years. A week later, I moved into a small apartment above a bookstore in a quiet part of town. Nothing fancy, but it felt like mine. I painted one of the walls blue, bought a coffee maker I didn't have to share, started waking up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Camille reached out one last time. A message that read, "I miss you. I never thought it would end like this." I didn't reply. What was there to say? Some endings don't need closure. They are closure. And life moved on. Slowly, I started reading again. Cooking. I took a solo trip to the mountains. One afternoon, while standing at the edge of a quiet lake, I realized something wild. I was happy, not because everything went the way I wanted, but because I survived what didn't. Pain has a way of sharpening the edges of your soul, but it also reveals the pieces of yourself you forgot existed. I found mine again, and this time, I'm not giving them away so easily. That's the end of this story, but every ending opens the door to a new beginning. In the comments below, tell us, what's the most fascinating event in history that still shocks you today? We'd love to hear what moments from the past make you stop and think. And don't forget, you're watching Reddit Confessions, where stories leave a lasting mark.